The following review is intended for entertainment purposes and targeted for adult fans of the series.
As I finally review Berserker, and it's upside down. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another comically long review. And this one is certainly going to qualify for that title. I nearly had to explain something to you heroes for a third time. As you know, Power Rangers issue number 6 has been something of an ongoing issue, no pun intended. I've said 3 times that it was going to be the next comic to review, and I nearly had to say it for a 4th time. I was updating my upcoming video list with some more comics that I have received, and a little voice in the back of my mind told me that I should add the release dates of the comics on that list so that I know how long it's been since something that I'm reviewing has come out. And when I did that, I realized that Power Rangers Unlimited, Heir to Darkness, actually came out before Power Rangers number 6, which makes sense. Power Rangers number 5 introduced the fact that Astronema and Ecliptor are on Onyx, but Power Rangers Heir to Darkness actually explains why before leading into Power Rangers number 6.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
I am a man of my word, as overly serious as that sounds about doing comic book reviews, but I also really want to stay on the release schedule of reviewing these comics in the order that they were released. So I said, hey, screw it, double review. That's right, today I'll be reviewing both Power Rangers Unlimited Heir to Darkness, as well as Power Rangers number 6. I was going to do them as separate videos and then just release them on the same day, but I figured, hey, why not just write one script? So, to get things started, let's learn about the early days of Astronema and Ecliptor, their service to Dark Spectre, and maybe just find out what led them to run into the Omega Rangers on Onyx. Let's take a look at Power Rangers Unlimited Heir to Darkness.
Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel.
Yeah, and make sure you got your notifications set up by hitting that little bell icon.
Right you. What he said was, you can consider checking us out on Patreon or Ko-fi at Orange Ranger Videos.
Heir to Darkness is a 40-page one-shot, so this video is actually going to be reviewing 3 standard comics length. Yay! Written by L.l Mckinney and illustrated by Simone Ragazzoni. Colors by Igor Monti and Sabrina Del Grosso, and letters, of course, by Ed Dukeshire. The main cover is pretty striking. Astronema kneeling with blades drawn, Ecliptor with a lot more armor than usual, in front of a wide-mouthed Dark Spectre. Kinda similar cover here, a connecting cover with the Phantom Ranger one-shot Edge of Darkness, which, while I'm mentioning it, will be reviewed in release order, so that's down the road a touch. And, by the way, this is also the cover that I got, as you may have seen just a moment ago. I'd kinda say that this is more the 2 of them actually on Onyx in the timing of Power Rangers number 5 and 6, since they're both wearing cloaks. Dark Spectre isn't, because they don't make cloaks that big. A cloak Dark Spectre size would be like a body hairnet for a mama Wookiee.
Where are you gonna get that? Target don't sell that.
Trippy cover here. Very 80s vibe. I can almost see this on the cover of a Trapper Keeper, if any of you kiddos even know what that is. We see Astronema as we saw her on In Space, a pair of Quantrons around her, and right behind her, her eyes, and in a cute little nod, lightning that separates her hair into the various styles we saw on the show. Speaking of drawings you'd see on a notebook, I want to word this carefully because it could come off as a little insulting or critical, but I really don't mean it to be. There's sort of a sketched quality to this one, a drawing of Astronema, knives drawn, wearing her cloak. There's just sort of a flat quality to it. It's a pencil drawing, I'd bet. It's beautiful, it's just not the type of art you normally see on a cover. And surprise, surprise, at this point, this book got a second printing to meet demand. The cover there is concept art of Astronema. As a Power Rangers fan, I feel the need to drop a slight warning here. This next scene is a little disturbing. It's not graphic or anything, but it's just going to kind of mess with your sense of how these things usually go. Are you ready to see a team of Power Rangers out and out lose? We open on Astronema having defeated the Prism Rangers. As a quick reminder, the Prism Rangers are an interpretation of the Sentai Flashman. They were named that by Power Rangers Super Megaforce, which used some of Gokaiger's Flashman uses as part of their really weird decision to include non-Power Rangers TV teams. Astronema has just killed the Red Prism Ranger. She sees her face in their visor and realizes she has blood on her face. She chides herself, but seems to be having a conversation with these caption boxes. She hears a groan and realizes the Pink Ranger is still alive. Her stab missed just to the right of their heart. She goes in to finish the job and Pink says, "Must run." Astronema laughs this off, saying there's nowhere for them to go. But they weren't talking about themselves. Astronema realizes what she means and fires back at the Green Ranger, who also survived the attack. And quickly doubling back here, we can see that Green is alive over on this tree. Nice touch. Astronema starts beating Green around, but Pink gets a second wind, jumping on her. She flings Pink off, but realizes that Green has escaped. She says it's meaningless, Green won't survive long with their wounds, and starts interrogating Pink on the location of Zordon. She won't tell, of course, just asking why Astronema is doing this. There's no way Dark Spectre's forces can win. She says the point isn't to win, it's to make sure fewer Rangers live to see tomorrow.
I may not live to see our glory, but I will gladly join the fight.
K to Bridge, Transport 1. At first, I thought she was pretending to be the Pink Ranger to infiltrate their ship, but no, she orders a course set for Mortain, and the crew obeys. K, spelled out K-A-Y, maybe short for Corone? She's told there's a message for her from Ecliptor, but since it's not marked urgent, she says she'll take it later.
John Lawrence, I'll read it later.
The captions berate her and seem to be a voice inside her head, chiding her for losing a target, telling her that Ecliptor and Dark Spectre would be mad, and that she's not that little girl anymore. We then see that little girl, I'm pretty sure, and the current time is now then. Hey, look, it's an evil version of the Padawan Academy.
Here we are in the Padawan Academy. Padme Academy.
Ecliptor is training a group of kids currently focused on Corone. He keeps knocking her out of her stance until she finally manages to block his attack. He's impressed, but knocks her down while she celebrates and nearly slams his staff through her brain. He asks what she learned. She says that he takes cheap shots. He responds to the remark by breaking her staff.
Well, excuse me.
When she laments losing her staff, he knocks her down again and again takes a shot at her head. He informs her that she nearly lost her head twice and tells her to join the other kids. A girl named Dee teases her, and just to put it out there, yes, this is actually Divatox, the space pirate that the Turbo Rangers fought. A girl named X talks rather scientifically, but asks if she's okay, and she says she's fine. The boy says she left an opening on her right again, and his name is Mal. This is a little less clear, but possibly the eventual Malagor? That would be interesting. Ecliptor asks if they learned anything. D says K's useless in a fight, but would make a good distraction. They bicker a little, and Ecliptor threatens to throw them in the furnace. Dang. Ecliptor says the lesson is to never let your guard down until you are certain your enemies are completely defeated. Again, similar to Star Wars, this time stormtroopers, Ecliptor calls D forward as D32897. They begin sparring and he keeps teaching. It's their lives or their enemies, and their enemies won't let them think twice. They know this because they survived while their families all died. Back to now, she's out of the shower. As she reviews the fight footage, the boxes, seriously, I'm not clear whose thoughts these are, chide her more. Sloppy fighting, it took too long, she was in her head. She asks the bridge to contact Ecliptor. She says it's time to put away childish things. And it's interesting to hear a Power Rangers villain make a Bible reference. 1 Corinthians 13:11. When I was a child, I spoke and thought and reasoned like a child. But when I grew up, I put away childish things.
The Bible.
This is the Bible.
You question the words of the mighty Jimmy?
Ecliptor only seemed to want a report. He was slightly concerned about the delay since she tends to get distracted when she's on her own. But she says, while not admitting that a ranger escaped, that she's on her way and she will be there on time. On Mortain, Ecliptor comes right out and asks her how many of the Prism Rangers she killed. She lies and says 5. Ecliptor seems to indicate that she's in some kind of a tournament, saying it's come down to her and D again. They walk past pictures of other villains. I'm not sure who Legolas over there is, but I sure do recognize Scorpina. Ecliptor says she's lost versus D the last 6 times. She says no, it's been 6 draws, but according to Dark Spectre, anything less than decisive victory is defeat. So I guess they both lost. You know, the then caption here is clear as day, but I missed it at first and got really confused, seeing as Ecliptor said it was down to her and D, but then we're in the arena and all 4 of them are fighting, as the people watching say they're getting faster and stronger. But when K helps X back up, whoever this is, I think it's Darkonda, calls it a streak of weakness. D smacks Mal down and they say she's in it to win. Now K and D face off. D pokes at her verbally, calling her too weak to fight and saying she's doomed for the furnace. The boxes tell her D always does this, trying to distract her, but then she brings up K's family and how the Rangers killed them but left her alive, probably because they knew she'd be a drain on Dark Spectre, a burden.
It's funny because it's true.
D strikes a stomach blow and is declared the winner. Might as well be Darkonda says that K has so much potential, which is what makes her losing streak so disappointing. D is apparently Darkonda's apprentice, and he and Ecliptor banter a little about that. The 4 apprentices talk after the fights, and we learn that D and Mal are dating, which would make the idea that Mal becomes Malagor make even more sense. Mal says that he must have impressed Darkonda, okay, there's confirmation that that is Darkonda, since he wants to give him a special assignment. He realizes that the lowest ranking candidate is usually given a suicide mission, but D says that K is the one who has to worry about that. X says that she lost to K, but D says that despite that, K has still been ranked last. Meanwhile, Ecliptor reports to Dark Spectre, who tells him to be rougher with her.
These life forms are resilient. They can withstand much before breaking. It sharpens them like weapons. I want my weapon, Ecliptor.
Ecliptor promises he will have it, but he says if not, it's Ecliptor's head in its place. I don't know that Ecliptor's head would make a great weapon. I guess it is kind of pointy? Both Kay and Ecliptor punch a wall at the same time and promise they won't fail. In a simulation, Kay fights a bunch of Rangers. They have the Mmpr diamonds on their chest, but their helmets are indistinct. Unfortunately for me, the orange one over here seems to have been shot in the back. The only way you'd take out the orange one, probably the strongest of the bunch. Ecliptor peeks down and sees her get knocked down, saying her mind is clouded. He tells her that if she's focused, anger can be a powerful tool. But she's not focused. He asks why, and after making sure she can speak freely, she asks what the point of her fighting is. He tells her it's to avenge her family and continue their service to Dark Spectre, but she screams that she doesn't care about what her family would want. She breaks down. Everyone tells her how amazing her parents were, what great servants of Dark Spectre, and she feels like they would be ashamed of her, just like Ecliptor surely is. She feels like a failure, and every time she falls down, people tell her to get back up for the sake of her family. But she has no memories of her family. Interestingly, she says for all she knows, they are a lie. Ecliptor hears all this out and then says, BRB. He heads to a room and opens a drawer, revealing a very familiar locket, although I will say it seems to be quite a bit bigger than the one we saw on the show. He flashes back to getting her from Darkonda, ordered to destroy all remnants of her past. He asks why she was kept alive when she's old enough to remember her past. Darkonda just teases that maybe he's not up to the job of raising her, but he says he is. Back to now, he talks to, well, really himself. It's addressed to Kay, but he's not close enough to actually be speaking to her yet. He saw right through what Darkonda did, giving him an older child, feeling like she couldn't be trained properly, and the failure would eliminate them both. But he believes in her as much as he believes in himself. He tells her, now actually face to face and speaking with her, that he took the locket from her years ago, thinking that separating her from her past would make her strong, but it didn't. She opens it and sees a picture of herself and of Andros, her brother. She asks if he knew her mother, but he points out it's simply that the locket is real, so her family and her mother were real as well.
Your family was great, but you'll never know that for yourself. That opportunity and 1,000,000 more like it were stolen because the Rangers thought your family was dangerous, that you were dangerous.
He tells her to fight not for her now dead family, but to become the woman the Rangers feared. He tells her to use her anger and desperation not as a weapon, but to become a weapon, and that he has never been ashamed of her. He reactivates the simulation and tells her to run it again. Back to now. Now the boxes are a conversation between her and Ecliptor, talking about D. Ecliptor says if she loses to D again, or another draw, I guess, she'll be wiped and sent to the front lines as cannon fodder. That's probably what going to the furnace means, the furnace of war. Strengthening the Divatox likelihood, D now wears a similar headpiece, but no mask. Dark Spectre is at this fight, saying they are the last two that remain of the apprentices and are fighting to be the heir to his empire. Perhaps the heir to darkness.
Roll credits.
And we flash right back. This page is just Dee and Kay bickering as they prepare to drop down somewhere. And Mal hasn't come back from his mission yet. A 2-page spread of the two fighting interspersed with the fight back then that they were dropping into. We see at the end of that fight that Kay saved Dee and the two bonded, but now they have to fight each other to the death. Kay lands a slash on Dee, who starts begging for her life, saying that they're sisters, they are family. Ecliptor's thoughts tell her to do what she has to do, what Dee would do, and has done. Kay seems to stop at a moment at family, but then says, "My family's dead." She slashes Dee across the face, winning the match. This middle slash here would indicate that Dee is dead, but if she's Divatox, she's clearly not. Dark Spectre brings her before him and says she's not done yet. Now she has to be judged. Stop me if this sounds familiar, but here's another Star Wars reference. She is taken to a cave, I'm not entirely sure where, and a voice inside tells her to enter and face herself in the dark. She sees her locket, impossible since she left it on the ship. She then sees a flashback of meeting the other candidates, told they are her family and she will fight for them and maybe even one day die for them. Instead, she attacks their forms, dispelling them. Back-to-back 2-page spreads as she faces Ecliptor this time, who says she owes him everything since he molded her into who she is. But she says that her power belongs to her for the service of the Empire, and the real Ecliptor would know that. The final test is Andros, telling her everything is over and to come home. But she draws her knife and says she is home. Then she stands alone. Ah, here's the connection with Divatox on the third 2-page spread in a row. She did survive, and Dark Spectre saw enough potential in her to have her wiped and make use of her yet. I mean, it does make sense. She fought Kay to a standstill 6 times. Kay only won once. It's not like Dee is useless. Kay emerges, announced as the heir officially. Ecliptor calls her princess and asks what the darkness has named her. She says the darkness has named her Rebecca. Just kidding, it's Astronema. She walks to her ship, passing who is now clearly Divatox, and gets her orders. She expects that it's still trying to track down Zordon, but no. Dark Spectre has different orders for her, since she's the only one that can be trusted with them. She reads them and tells Ecliptor to set a course for Onyx. And we'll see why when we get to Power Rangers number 6. This is a very interesting story, and overall, I think I like it well enough. One of the most fascinating things about Astronema and Ecliptor is how wholesome their relationship is when it's entirely based on a lie that the Power Rangers killed Astronema's family. This book explores that very well, and especially towards the end, you start getting this uncomfortable feeling that you have warm fuzzies about the two of them growing closer when their entire relationship is based on a lie and both of them at the moment are evil. My criticisms are pretty minor overall, once again with the bouncing back and forth between time periods, though for a prequel story like this might be a little bit necessary. It just kind of feels like a tired story device for Power Rangers comics at this point. And even more minor than that, the 3 back-to-back-to-back 2-page spreads near the end just kind of scream, we don't have enough pages written for this, and we don't have enough time to write more, so we gotta stretch this thing. Overall, I wouldn't say I was thrilled with this story, but I definitely think it's worth a read. And I mean, unlike some of the other Power Rangers one-shots, this is officially canon to the comics, directly leading in to the next issue of Power Rangers. So, Power Rangers Unlimited Heir to Darkness gets a 4 out of 5. But let's not waste any more time and get to the next part of this story as I finally review Power Rangers issue number 6. The main cover is a striking image, Astronema leaping above the shantytown on Onyx. But she's pretty high up in the air. The legacy cover, Mmpr number 67, is neat as well, Astronema with Ecliptor behind her facing the other way. The color cover...
It is green.
Oh, right. After we see the wrong color thing as a piece of one cover, we get it as an entire cover on the other. It's Zack, but nothing about this one actually points to his Mmpr days like these have been, as far as I can tell anyway. It just seems to be his Omega suit. Oh, good. Let's bounce back in time again. The captions are green, so it's probably Ecliptor telling the story of Astronema.
They'll tell the story of tonight.
You may have been wondering how Corone and Astronema were brought together as children. Well, here's an interesting little tie together. Andros and Corone grew up on KO-35 in its great capital city of Inquiris?
I have several questions.
So, I always got the impression that Inquiris was a planet, not a city. And aren't people that are from Inquiris supposed to always ask questions? Inquire, inquiry, Inquiris, like Alpha 6 explained. I do understand that Divatox is apparently from Inquiris, since she and Demetria were sisters and everything, and Divatox didn't always ask questions, but, I mean, you know what, let's just move on. What I really love about this page is that Ecliptor's captions are telling the lie, that the Power Rangers attacked Inquiris, but the pictures are telling the truth, Dark Specter's forces attacking instead. You know, this is basically kind of catching you up if you didn't read Heir to Darkness, so I don't know how necessary it actually is, or didn't see Power Rangers in Space. Darkonda gave Corone to Ecliptor, interestingly from the opposite angle. It's almost like these two books take place from different camera angles. She trained under him and fought Rangers. She is driven by just one thing: vengeance. Ecliptor was telling this story to Trini, G, and Draken, and of course, Trini calls him on it. But he makes a fantastic counterpoint. Draken is standing right there, and Trini can't believe that a Power Ranger can do something evil? G just moves the conversation along to what Ecliptor wants. SPD has Astronema, as well as Jason and Zack. A train is coming in the morning to deliver them to the spaceport. He proposes an alliance to free them all, because if that spaceship makes it to open space, they're never going to catch up with them. Draken makes a good point. Ecliptor is on a planet full of powerful monsters, but instead he came to the Power Rangers? This really must mean a lot to him. He makes a great counterpoint once again. The monsters would probably report this to Dark Specter, and Ecliptor would rather that he not found out about this. Trini asks G if they can just go explain things to SPD, but they say they'd probably just get arrested, especially with Zordon's little message. Trini's next issue is that Astronema being freed means she'll just be right back after them. Ecliptor swears that if they get free, he will take her and they will go their separate ways. No one ever has to know.
Nobody needs to know.
Ecliptor says this really isn't so much of a request as a notification. He's going after the train at dawn. They can help if they want. Trini wants to know if they can do this without hurting anyone, but G says probably not. Remember, SPD officers train to be Power Rangers. Astronema pretends to be asleep, holding sharp screws like claws, but Jason knows that she has them and says that if she acts up, SPD will just activate the shield again. Zach told Jason about what Astronema said about her family. He expresses sympathy, but she plays it tough, basically saying she's killed Rangers before and he's next. He's rather aloof about it, actually. He says they're on a quest to do something good, so they aren't all bad. She insists that they are only out to protect themselves, but unlike her, they claim to be good. She says that good and evil are just words. She knows what Rangers like Jason are really like. He says he actually envies her moral certitude. Time for a good old-fashioned train robbery. Ecliptor details the situation, the speed of the train, which does not allow for teleportation, the agents on board, where the prisoners are, etc., etc. G pilots a skiff Ecliptor stole to get close to the train. Trini is scared to jump, but Ecliptor makes a funny point. If she misses the jump, she won't feel it, she'll just be dead. They jump and barely grab the outside of the train, which alerts the agents on the inside. The agents pop out, knowing Ecliptor was coming, and asking Trini whose side that she should be on. Ecliptor digitally duplicates himself, I guess he can do that, and sends her to get the prisoners. Ecliptor is very familiar with these agents, even knowing their names. One agent starts shooting up the ship, taking out one of the engines, which, to continue the Star Wars references, look like pod racer engines. The ship crashes into the train, not enough to actually derail it, but apparently taking out the copy Ecliptor. Trini gets to the prisoner's car, and Jason and Zach say their goodbyes to Astronema, but Trini says that she's coming with them. But then an armored somebody, the third agent I'm guessing, attacks, saying Trini is betraying all the Rangers stand for. She tries to explain, but they don't want to hear it, calling them traitors. Jason grabs them from inside the cell and pulls them back against the laser bars, incapacitating them. Hey, let's go check on Fendrick, shall we? Draken has some unfinished business, but this does actually tie into the main story. Fendrick is taking a nice bath when Draken approaches. Fendrick knows that this is Lord Draken, which is really interesting because how does he remember that? Draken says that Fendrick cheated a few of his friends, that's interesting, out of a fusion converter. Fendrick says that doesn't sound like him. But Draken has brought Yale along, and liars make him really hungry. Fendrick suddenly remembers the converter and says he can get that right away, but Draken says they also have some private business to discuss.
Suspense!
Trini explains things as Jason and Zach get their morphers back and power up. As they escape the car, Astronema looks at the guard, reptilian face revealed under the helmet. Up on top, the Rangers realize that their getaway car isn't there, and drones come in shooting. Jason dives to save Astronema from some shots. Jason says she owes him one, as Zach spins his comma around to take the drones down. The Rangers keep fighting their way past drones when Astronema pulls a gun on Jason. Jason tells her that's fine, but he removes his helmet. She's gonna look him in the eyes before she shoots him between them. She can't do it, just saying that she hates him. Lizard Dude then leaps out to attack, and Astronema has no issue shooting him, knocking him clear off the train. Jason asks why she did that, and she parrots back his line about helping. Notice how even she looks surprised. G made it onto the train and is helping Ecliptor fight the SPD agents. They get the upper hand and take the chance to detach their car from the train. Everyone reunites, and when Astronema reports casually that she had to dispose of an SPD agent, the Rangers have had enough. Remember that we'll go our separate ways and never see each other again thing? Nah, not anymore. If they see each other again, the Rangers say they're finishing this. G knows that the Rangers are hot right now, but there's a lot of drones around, so they should be going. G and Zack drive the Spectrum, G pointing out that it was surprisingly Draken that got their engines running again. Now, the hunt for the Imperials can finally begin. Letting the readers know that we're done with this little sidestep in the story. Trini is in her feelings because someone died, but Jason says it's not her fault and they have to stay the course. Jason says sometimes you have to do the wrong thing for the right reasons. You just don't have a choice. But she says there's always a choice, and they cannot forget that. It is the difference between good and evil. And this Imperial is really orange and cool looking, so that's a thin line for me right now. I really liked this issue. It is kind of a set-piece story, the classic train robbery / prison break, but updated for the modern times, and gives it again that nice little sci-fi twist. And touching nicely on both the moral weirdness of the relationship between Astronema and Ecliptor, and the morally questionable actions of the Omega Rangers, having the bad guys in this issue be Space Patrol Delta gives it a nice little twist. This little Onyx side story that, I'm sorry, really only feels like it existed to sell Heir to Darkness, at least resolves neatly, and now we're going to get back to the main story. And Draken's private conversation with Fendrick gives us a nice little lingering plot thread to resolve. Power Rangers, issue number 6, gets a 4.5 out of 5. Next time on a comically long review, the Rangers' old friend and current tenuous ally, Green Ranger Matt, suddenly stands opposed to them alongside Goldar. Can the Rangers bring him back to their side and save Angel Grove? Find out in my review of Mighty Morphin issue number 7, which seems to have fallen neatly between the cracks of me switching over from my local comic book store to online ordering and shipping. That is going to do it for another comically long review. Thank you, heroes, so much as always for watching. Now that the video's done, you can let me know what you thought of both of these stories down in the comments below, as well as my review of them. While you're down there in the comments, make sure you smack that thumbs up button to let me know that you enjoyed this video. And if you'd like to lend any financial support to my channel, be sure to check out my pages on Patreon or Ko-fi, or head over to my Teespring and get some sweet Orange Ranger merch. Until next time, heroes, may the power protect you. Just so I know how long it's been since something that I'm reviewing has come out. Since something I'm reviewing. Speaking of drawings on a notebook, I want to word this you know what, I'm going to do that again. In their really weird decision to include non-Sentai teams. Non-Power Ranger teams. They were named that by Power Rangers Super Mega Force, which, god dang it. And just to point it out, a girl named X talks her to, well, himself really, he's not close enough to K to be addressing her. Yeah, I completely lost track of where I am. Giving him an older child, he tells her to fight for her now dead I think I like it. It's something, isn't it? Oh, right. After we see the wrong color cover on one, we see, as a piece of one, I should say. One agent starts shooting at the shin. And this Imperial is really orange, so there's that. I really liked this issue. It's kind of a set-piece story, the classic prison